What kind of anger can destroy a life in a single second? Not a demon's anger, not a king's anger, but the anger of a sage. Sage Durvasa, a man so feared that even gods became careful around him. One curse from him once shook heaven itself. But one day, that same sage cursed his own wife and turned her into ashes. And yet, here is the mystery nobody talks about. If she truly became ashes, this is not just a story about anger. It is a story about words, karma, regret, and transformation. In ancient Bharat, there lived a sage whose name alone terrified people. Sage Durvasa. People respected him deeply, but they also feared him because nobody knew what might trigger his anger. Kings feared insulting him. Saints feared disappointing him. Even devas remained careful around him. But despite all his wisdom, Durvasa carried one battle inside himself: his temper. And destiny was about to test him, not through enemies, not through gods, but through marriage. Far away lived another great sage, Sage Aurva. And he had a daughter named Kandali, beautiful, pure-hearted, compassionate, but cursed with one dangerous weakness: her words. She became angry quickly, and once anger took over, her tongue became sharper than a weapon. Now think about this carefully. How many good people today destroy relationships, not because they are evil, but because they cannot control their words? One sentence spoken in anger can leave wounds that last for years. And destiny was preparing Kandali for exactly that lesson. One day, Sage Durvasa arrived with a marriage proposal. The moment Aurva heard it, worry filled his heart. He folded his hands respectfully and said, "O great sage, my daughter's heart is pure, but her speech is harsh, and your anger is known across the universe. How will this marriage survive?" For a moment, silence filled the ashram. Then surprisingly, Durvasa spoke calmly, almost too calmly. "Do not worry. I will forgive 100 mistakes." Aurva felt relieved, and soon the marriage took place. At first, everything seemed peaceful. Kandali sincerely served her husband. She cared for the ashram, performed rituals, respected Durvasa deeply. But changing habits is harder than changing destiny. Small arguments slowly began, sometimes over rituals, sometimes over misunderstandings, sometimes over nothing at all. And every time, Durvasa stayed silent. No anger, no reaction, which slowly became terrifying, because silence from an angry man is never peace. Sometimes it is a countdown. Inside his mind, Durvasa counted every insult. 1, 2, 3, 4. And with every number, tension slowly filled the ashram. A sage famous for unbearable anger was fighting against himself. But destiny was waiting quietly for one number: 101. The strange part was, Kandali herself knew she had a problem, and that made her suffer even more. Because the worst battles are the battles inside ourselves. Many nights she sat alone in silence, regretting every harsh word she had spoken, hating herself for hurting the people she loved most. And many nights, Durvasa also sat alone, trying to control the fire inside him. Because for the first time in his life, the great sage feared not the world, but himself. Days passed, then weeks. The arguments became more frequent, and the atmosphere inside the ashram slowly changed. Disciples stopped speaking loudly. Servants walked carefully. Even the air felt heavy. Everyone knew something terrible was approaching. Then one morning, because this is where everything changes. Shani Dev, the silent judge of karma, the deity most people misunderstand. People fear Shani because he brings suffering, but Shani does not destroy without reason. He removes ego, illusions, false identity. He breaks the version of you that can no longer continue. And when Shani looked toward Kandali, he did not see evil. He saw something rare, true regret. A soul that genuinely wanted to change. Slowly, his divine gaze fell upon her, and the moment it happened, the world around her changed. The wind stopped moving. River water became still. Birds suddenly fell silent. Even the forest seemed frozen in time. Because Shani's gaze is not ordinary. It does not simply punish, it transforms. And from that very moment, Kandali's destiny had already begun to change, though she herself did not yet realize it. One divine glance, that's all it took. Because sometimes, your transformation begins with the destruction of who you used to be.
Kandali returned to the ashram carrying water. But something inside her had shifted. The energy of Shani's gaze had already begun its work. Then another argument began. This time, more intense than ever before. Durvasa tried to remain calm. He truly tried. But Kandali, blinded by emotion, spoke words sharper than she ever had before. And then, it happened. The 101st mistake. Silence filled the ashram instantly. Durvasa's patience shattered. His eyes blazed like fire. He lifted sacred water into his palm and thundered. "You have crossed your limit, Kandali! Become ashes, this very moment!" And instantly, flames erupted around her. Within seconds, Kandali disappeared. Only ashes remained. Complete silence. Imagine that moment. One sentence, 1 second of anger, and an entire life ended. Most people think anger destroys relationships, but that's not true. Anger lasts minutes. Words remain for years. Soon, Sage Orva arrived, and when he saw his daughter reduced to ashes, his heart shattered. Grief turned into rage. A father's pain became dangerous. He lifted water from his kamandalu, ready to curse Durvasa himself. And this was no ordinary conflict. These were two powerful sages. If both unleashed their fury, entire kingdoms could fall. Suddenly, birds stopped singing. Violent winds tore through the forest. River water began moving backwards. Even disciples stepped away in fear. Because everyone understood, when sages lose control, the universe trembles. And just before destruction erupted, a divine light appeared. Lord Vishnu himself descended from the heavens. The entire forest fell silent. Orva froze. Durvasa lowered his eyes. Then Vishnu slowly walked toward Kandali's ashes. And something remarkable happened. Vishnu did not see only punishment. He saw intention. He saw sincerity. He saw a soul that genuinely wanted to become better. Then Lord Vishnu spoke softly. Kandali, your words were bitter, but your heart was pure. You wished not to harm, but to transform. Therefore, you shall be reborn as the Kandali tree, the banana plant, a sacred life, a life that will serve humanity forever. And then, Lord Vishnu made a declaration that continues even today. From this day onward, no worship of mine, no sacred ritual, no auspicious ceremony shall ever be complete without your presence. And that is why, even today, banana leaves remain sacred in Hindu traditions. But the beauty of this story goes far beyond rituals. Kandali was not remembered for her mistakes. She was remembered for her desire to become better. The same woman whose words once destroyed peace now silently serves millions in sacred ceremonies. Not through speech, but through presence. And maybe that is the deepest lesson hidden in this story. Your anger does not define you forever. Your past does not define you forever. Transformation is always possible. Even ashes can become sacred. And if this story touched your heart, tell us in the comments, what do you think is harder to control, anger or words? And for more forgotten stories from Indian history and mythology, like, share and subscribe to Vedic Wars. Until next time, remember this. A single harsh word can destroy a life, but a sincere heart can still reach the divine.